Hello everybody. I'm Svante and I've been an Atlassian wizard for 10 years and with the Klarna Bank for the past 7, where I've built up the entire Atlassian stack. My passion is to have a holistic view of everything I do and at the same time be able to get my hands dirty with all the details. I also have a passion in helping people, and I've been very active in the Atlassian community in the past. And if I'm forced to choose, I would say that Jira and Bitbucket are my favorite tools. I'm trying to attend as many Atlassian events as possible because I think the ecosystem and that comes with this is a great place for me to develop myself within the Atlassian. So this is my 7th summit, the first summit I'm talking at, and I also have a number of Atlas camps and team tours on my resume.
I'm Emil. 4 years ago, I don't think my... Yeah, now? So my name, and this is cutting out. Oh. Yeah.
Productivity.
So I'm Emil. 4 years ago, I decided to build a career within the Atlassian tools. Ending up working with this on a daily basis and also standing here in front of all of you makes me very happy. I'm really into Jira and motorcycles. The picture is me on my bike that I built about 4 years ago. It's from an article in a Swedish magazine called MCM. And no, that's not the hashtag ManCrushMonday. But it's funny because I applied the same system of value for both Jira and motorcycles, that is. When it's simple, effective, and I have freedom. So from my own personal standard, I think I succeeded in both.
So we're both from Klarna in Sweden, as Brian mentioned in the beginning, and this talk is about how we scaled Atlassian. Usually when large enterprises are trying to transform, they want to move away from some kind of dinosaur state into something more modern, agile way of working and more productive. Move away from where things go really, really slow to something that is faster, more productive. At Klarna, we also want to get better and faster and more productive, but we're not coming from the dinosaur state. It's more like trying to transform a wild bronco into a unicorn.
So the bronco lived wild in his entire life without formal training or strict upbringing, prone to unpredictable behavior, proven fast and powerful.
And then there's the unicorn, a fabled creature considered to be good and beautiful. Unicorns are said to possess magical powers, and nothing is ever impossible for a unicorn. It's a creature everyone is truly looking up to. We will use these two creatures throughout the presentation to describe various situations for you. So let's start with the Atlassian journey at Klarna. It started back in 2010 with Jira. At this time, it was only engineering using Jira for software development purposes. I joined Klarna 2012 to help Klarna with the release process. This resulted in that we migrated 300 repositories into Bitbucket and introduced Confluence to engineering. At this point, Jira was managed by the poor developer that had raised his hand one day with the question, who wants to be the Jira admin? There was no hostile takeover needed from my side, and from now on, all the Atlassian tools at Klarna were managed by me. The graph you see here is the issue growth in our Jira instance, and the bars you see is representing number of tickets created per month, and the solid line is the total number of tickets in Jira. And as you can see, in the beginning, it was quite moderate growth when only engineering used it for software development purposes. In 2015, things started to happen. We added on 2 more people to the team. Emil was one of them, and Susanne, who is still back in Sweden, was the other one. And we introduced Jira Service Desk. The first team that started to use Jira Service Desk was IT support, which is very common for most companies. And we started to see that the usage increased quite fast. And this was the first time we started to feel the Bronco at Klarna. We almost doubled the traffic into Jira. 1 year later, we added the HR service desk, and now things really started to happen because we added on more people using Jira for creating requests. And the Bronco feeling was really scary at this point, because now we realized that we need to start look at Jira in a different way if we want this to be successful in the future, because we had so many other teams lining up for having a service desk portal too. So we decided to take a break, and for 1 year we planned for the Klarna service desk. And in 2017 we launched it. This service desk hosts all service request related projects into one portal. And today we have 35 service desks running in this portal, and we also during last year added on a 4th member to our team, Peter, who is on the front row here. Now we really started to close in to the unicorn status when it comes to Jira Service Desk. The graph you see in the background is generated by a plugin to Jira called EasyBI. This plugin has been a key player for us, for our Jira projects, when it comes to create awesome graphs and reports based on the data in all Jira projects.
The Klarna strategy is to work as an incubator for startups. We operate independently, aligned on vision and mission. This enables agility and fast growth, as well as experimenting and expanding into new areas. For this to work smoothly, our culture is that of openness to change and continuous improvement. The guiding principle is to enable decision-making at a team level. Teams represent the problem space and receives a number of benefits. Then they have to pitch for any additional resources, such as new hires, licenses, or additional budgets. The domain purpose in the organization is to organize teams into a vertical hierarchy. This is very common in very common structural design in many organizations. Competence, however, is a horizontal dimension in the operating model. Instead of hiring resources for each team, we hire for competence. So for example, if we need Java developers, well, who doesn't, then we create a Java pipeline to hire for. And that's not specific to any team or domain. So last year, with this structure, we hired 800 new employees to Klarna. And we're on the path of doing the same this year again. And smooth is the opposite of friction, slow, cumbersome, boring, and unproductive.
So now let's talk about scaling Atlassian and what that means to us. In this section, I will talk about how number of users adding more support functions to Jira and how different use cases affects the scaling of our Atlassian applications. When it comes to the number of users using your application, it's absolutely one factor you need to consider when you are planning for scale, of course. I will talk about the growth of teams, but I also want to talk about an often unknown factor, the growth of non-human users affecting your applications. As the number of users are increasing, more requirements are of course put on your application. Both Jira and Bitbucket, however, they are quite well prepared for this, the increased number of human users. Everything has, of course, its limits, and you need to keep an eye on this. The increasing number of end users is usually manageable because it doesn't grow that fast, and you can usually meet the increased demands just as long as you're on your toes on this. But one thing that you must never forget is the use of non-human users interacting with your applications. These non-human users, or bots, can, for example, be scripts running in the background updating Jira issues. It can be large Jira searches that is done to populate other systems that needs information about Jira issues. It can be Jira plugins importing data into Jira, or build servers hammering on your Bitbucket instance. All of these bots, usually, they are very important to your success. And you don't want to restrict this kind of usage if possible. So to manage this, we need to ensure that we have enough horsepower to tame this wild bronco when we need it. And to ensure that we had enough horsepower serving Klarna, we upgraded our Bitbucket server last year to Bitbucket Data Center. With our current load that we see on Bitbucket, the data center solution gives us the tools to manage the infrastructure to exactly fit the needs that we need throughout the working day. We have today 1,500 users working in 11,000 Bitbucket repos. And remember from the Atlassian journey page I showed you that when I started, we migrated 300 repos. And now we have 11,000 repos. And we can see up to 4,000 commits per day added to Bitbucket. But even more amazing is that Bitbucket serves up to 3,000 clone operations per hour when it peaks. And there is no way our two-legged users can put this stress on the Bitbucket cluster. No, it's not possible. It's our CI/CD infrastructure that does most of the heavy lifting here. The CI/CD, or continuous integration deployment process at Klarna, is using Jenkins. We have 150 Jenkins masters environments set up. A Jenkins master is representing a team or a product or similar. And these masters can spin up 2,000 Jenkins slaves in AWS to run all the CI/CD jobs. The image you see here is a point in time how the Jenkins infrastructure can look like. The larger blobs you see are the Jenkins masters. And the colored dots are the Jenkins slaves, if they're idle or active. As an example, we have the Jenkins master for our Klarna app development, the app that everyone is using on their smartphone to manage the purchases. This Jenkins master it's the big blob in the middle, you can see. When a change to the Klarna app is deployed, up to 600 Jenkins slaves are started in AWS to run all the tests and deployment pipelines needed. Each of these build jobs are hammering hard on our Bitbucket cluster. And we have, of course, done a number of stress tests of this. And having 1,700 Jenkins slaves starting up at the same time, running the pipelines, didn't break the Bitbucket DC at Klarna. And to be able to do this and to scale our data center cluster properly, we have set it up in AWS. There's a classic load balancer in fronting all the users, and behind that load balancer we have 4 application nodes running during high load times. The application nodes are members of an auto-scaling group that makes it possible for us to scale up and down based on the current need. There is also an NFS server and an RDS Postgres serving the 4 application nodes. For code search purposes, we are using the AWS Elasticsearch service, and this works really well for us as well. And just to describe the difference we experience with this data center setup, the old single server we had used 12 CPUs and 64 gig of memory, and now we have 4 nodes with 16 CPUs and 32 gigabyte memory, which gives us 64 CPUs and 128 gigabyte of memory. And we can scale this as we need, up and down. And to monitor this, we used, among a lot of different monitoring tools, we also use CloudWatch from AWS. This gives us a possibility to, in real time, monitor a number of metrics. And for example, you can see the CPU graph here and the memory graph for the cluster. And you can see in the CPU graph that we rarely exceed 50% of CPU usage on our 4 nodes. And when it comes to the memory graph, you can see that the memory is stable at a sufficient level, and we have enough room to take on those memory spikes that heavy Git operations put on us. You can also see in the memory graph that we, at 5 o'clock in the morning, add on 2 more nodes. And this is to be able to meet the higher demand when people are coming into the office and start to work. But we also use these graphs to help us optimize the infrastructure for cost. So if you compare the 2 graphs, you can see 2 things. We have the CPU load first. If we have 4 nodes that are not working more than 50%, maybe we can scale this vertically and use cheaper and smaller instances to save a few bucks. And secondly, the reload on the cluster, as you can see, is not starting until 8 a.m. in the morning. So why do we spin up 2 new nodes already at 5? That's probably too much of a margin. So we can probably postpone this scaling out to, say, for example, 7 o'clock in the morning, and we will save a few more bucks there. So running Bitbucket Data Center in AWS for us is really smooth.
In the second part of scaling Atlassian, I'm going to talk about support functions. And when we talk about support functions in Jira, then the Jira Service Desk is a no-brainer in terms of bringing value. It has everything that Jira does, but with an additional layer of user experience fluffiness, making it available to a broader audience. The first Jira Service Desk we announced was the IT Service and Support back in 2015, like Svante mentioned earlier. And they currently have 82,500 tickets resolved in their project. And they're currently crunching more than 1,600 tickets on average per month. This is an example of a traditional team that is usually seen in many organizations. The not so traditional or less traditional support functions, like the Atlassian support, where we have Jira, Confluence, and Bitbucket, and we can see request types like product configuration, adding users, or coaching sessions. We have customer feedback and complaints for escalations made from first line service center to second and third line. Also incident reports for any type of incidents in-house, whether it's a computer machine or not. And then, is that it? Well, not at Klarna. At Klarna we have live stream requests, like if you want your talk recorded, for example, if you need food for your meetings, system access, maybe create a new domain in the organization, or open up the firewall. You can be unreasonable here. As you can see, we use the service desk to supply support functions for a great variety of teams. Many of our developers use software projects for the planned work, but they also use service desk projects to carry out support. So now, coming back to scaling, having 35 service desks is a challenge and a native Jira Service Desk doesn't really scale well in this area. An example of that is the browse all, because if I click this, that list is going to be long. We also need a good way of showing related knowledge base articles from Confluence, and we have plenty of these too. That is why we need smoother user experience, searchability, and to preserve context. On this slide, we have a Bronco alert. We solved these conditions with the help of the app refined for Jira Service Desk, which was recently rebranded about a week ago from Refined Theme for Jira Service Desk. But this allows us to create sites or landing pages for categories, rather than only by Service Desk project. So we can group request types from different projects into a single category. For example, in Office support, we can request support for internal communication, office supplies, meeting room equipment, or physical security. All of these are carried out from different teams. When searching for something, like Jira, I receive suggestions on knowledge base articles that provide me with information, seen on the left, and also request types on the right.
So, extending the Jira application outside of engineering is adding a lot of fun into the mix. This is what this next section will be about. With other teams than engineering, we see quite different needs when setting up the processes in Jira. We don't hear so much about sprints and stories and Kanban and stuff when we talk to these teams. These new Jira teams have introduced a variety of new ways of thinking in Jira. And nowadays we get questions like, where do you belong? What room shall we send the food order? What is the nickname of your team? What equipment do you have? Who should approve this? And in what language do you want the co-listening to be in? To be able to do this, we have introduced a concept that we would like to call context. So what is context? My definition would be something like, it's the art of being able to provide the correct and relevant information in every situation, and preferably automatically. Imagine the following scenario. You are creating a request in the service desk. The agent in the desk needs to know what team you belong to. This is a very common need for example, HR service desk. What if you could get this automatically based on the reporter of the request? Or you create a ticket to IT support about your broken phone. Wouldn't it be beautiful if all your checked out equipment was automatically added to the request for the agent to view directly when the request is added to their queue? Our IT governance team is working hard to make sure all our systems and services are compliant. And with the context we have set up, you can easily see all systems and services owned by a specific team. Maybe even the team the user that created the request belongs to. And why stop there? If we now see the systems and services, we also want to know what infrastructure are they running on. What EC2s or RDS services in AWS, for example, are in the play here. Another very common use case is the purchase process, where the manager of the team needs to approve something. But who is the manager for the reporter of the request? You got it. It's the manager of the team that the reporter of the request belongs to. And we can add that automatically to the ticket. And the same goes for organization structure. With this context in place, we can easily grab, for example, the domain lead for the team that the reporter of the ticket belongs to. And what I've showed you here is just the very beginning of what you can do with the correct context added. Getting the correct context available is very much like playing chess. You need to be able to foresee the needs and what is coming and build your strategy from there. It is a great fun to setting this up, and it's awesome to see all the great spin-off effects that you get just because you try to survive the scaling. Native Jira is dealing with context in various ways, and the most common is using custom fields. But even components and also labels I've seen are used for this purpose, totally outside of the control from a Jira admin. This might work quite well in smaller organizations where things doesn't change that much and not that fast. But if any of you has been a Jira admin and dealt with trying to keep these custom fields up to date, you know that it quickly gets out of your hands. And trying to keep these fields updated is a very taxing task, and the fields are more often obsolete than correct. This doesn't work at all, actually, when you start to scale your usage heavily. We need a much smoother approach here to keep this Bronco in the stable. And to make the context scale, we have identified 3 things. First of all, it needs to be in real time. It means that the information needs to be up to date at all time. And it also needs to be automatically updated, because we cannot spend human time trying to keep these fields updated, because we cannot keep up with that. And finally, it needs to be available everywhere, because it's at that point when every team in Jira, in every view, can use this, we will get the real value out of it. And if we don't do the homework correct here, the scaling issues will come back and haunt us like a boomerang. Insight for Jira is a plugin that provides a set of functions to store relational data right into the Jira infrastructure. This data is then available to the entire Jira instance. And what you see here is the context that we have created for our Atlassian applications at Klarna. Here we have information about the applications we use. We have information about what Jira projects we have in the Jira instance. We have all information about all projects and repositories in our Bitbucket instance. We have information about all the plugins we have installed, and so on and so on. This data is then kept automatically updated with a number of different scheduled import options that comes with Insight. This makes it possible for us to keep this data updated at all time. So when we install a new plugin, for example, in Jira, 30 minutes later, it will show up here. And also, there are a number of great custom field types that comes with Insight that makes it possible for you to get the data out of Insight and into your Jira tickets. And note the richness these custom fields can provide to you. You can decide how much information you want to show in your Jira tickets. So in this example, for the Jira project custom field, we decide that we want to show not only the key of the Jira project, we also want to show the display name of the project, as well as the number of tickets in the project, and so on.
So our track is focused around scaling Atlassian, and our talk is focused around context. We want to show you how we scale the user experience based on context. We have a Jira Service Desk portal for almost all in-house support at Klarna. There's almost 2,900 customers or employees providing context here. The receiving end is made up of 450 agents carrying out support functions across 35 projects. About 250,000 out of the grand total 800,000 tickets belong in here. This is the place where viewing the ticket context is the central element of work. And finally, in this context section, we will also talk about how we use the context to create solutions for our users. So, providing context, the early stages of user experience is through the service desk. So in this example, I'm creating a new request for a Jira project configuration where I want a new status in my workflow. I describe what I want, and then I also pick the project where I like the change to apply. That list is populated on the projects I'm involved in, instead of showing every single project in the whole instance. In the next step, I can pick the issue types in a reference field, showing only issue types that are available in the project I picked in the previous field. This is valuable because the information is already refined and easy to digest for the receiving end. The provided context helps the agent to categorize their work. In viewing the context, I can clearly see for what project this is and what issue types, etc. If I click the project, it returns additional information, like what team owned this project, available issue types, and even a link to the project settings page, which is very effective for the agent carrying out the change. If I want more information about the team owning this project, I can click the name and receive additional information about that too. Information like where in the organization it belongs, who's the manager, or team members. For example, if I need to reach out or include more people on this ticket.
So, as for the third part of this section of the talk, I will talk about how we use this context that we have added to the tickets. And one use case that use context a lot is the system incident process. And it's kind of funny that Scott mentioned this on the keynote this morning, how important it is to integrate Jira software with service desk and status page, because that's exactly what I'm going to talk about. System incidents do happen. That's something we can all agree on. And we constantly work on to avoid system incidents, but the fact is they do happen, and we are focusing on catching them, resolving them, and managing them as quickly as possible. And I want to, the incident process is kind of tricky. We have been struggling with this a couple of years with tons of emails sent out to inform people about system incidents and to make sure that no stakeholder is overlooked. So last year we rolled out this new process which has reduced the email traffic massively. We also got better visibility, traceability and transparency among our system incidents. We needed to have a smooth front end with a clear guidance to help the reporter create the system incident. For this we choose Jira Service Desk. It gives us the ability to create help text and guiding information in a way that is necessary to get the ticket created. Jira Service Desk is not optimal for our next phase in the process though, when we collaborate on the incident trying to resolve it. Therefore we add Jira software into the mix. The Jira Service Desk form is creating a Jira software ticket, and we use this to resolve and follow up on the incident. Finally, we need to make sure the relevant stakeholders are informed about the system incident, and for this we use status page. And now I want to just walk you quickly through the incident process and show you how these tools are integrated with each other. Imagine that our beloved Jira instance is suffering and runs slow. People are seeing timeouts and the user interface is loading very slowly. Despite of this, we try to create a system incident report in the service desk. Among all fields to fill in, we also point out which system it is about, in this case Jira. And since Jira is used by everyone at Klarna, we want to make sure that we inform the users about this. Therefore, we can do this within the Jira, within the create process. We just mark it that it should be sent to status page as well, and we can add a comment for it. This form is then creating a ticket, a Jira software ticket. And the Jira software ticket in this case is doing a lot when it's created. It takes the team, the system that was added in the create form, and then we automatically add both the team and domain that are responsible for Jira. And that also makes it possible for us to set up a list of viewers for this specific incident, and we derive that directly from the team field. So we only ping the people in the team for this incident. And we also said that we wanted to inform our users, the stakeholders. So we created at the same time a status page incident. And for you that has used status page, you know that here we are using subscriptions. So everyone that subscribe on the Jira system in status page will from now on get updates on this incident. And we don't have to send out a single email. And now the team is working hard and we get Jira up and running again, and it's time to resolve the incident. And at this point we want to tell the users that subscribe on this in status page, telling them that now this service is back to operational mode. We just add that in the resolve screen in Jira. And when the ticket is resolved, our status page incident is automatically resolved too. And if I refresh my status page now, I can see that everything is running smooth.
So, Klarna, we're a bank, and our goal is to disrupt the banking industry and to become the world's favorite way to buy. We're currently running with over 60 million consumers, making 800,000 transactions daily through 100,000 merchants. Our services are payments related, which enables you to pay directly at checkout with your Klarna account. It lets you receive your order first before deciding if you want to keep it or not. Like if I buy one of these robes, I can make sure it fits before I pay for it. And if you return it, you don't need to deal with transactions. Just mark the order returned in your account and ship it back. But if you keep it, you can pay right away or slice it into smaller pieces, like a pizza, either like a wrap or in slices. And the future, we have a few initiatives here. So we always strive to take on new support functions, and we're working on teams productive in less than 1 hour. We also want more granular context on our users, systems, and projects, and then adding an external status page in the system incident process to improve visibility. Our dream vision is to empower productivity as a lifestyle.
So remember that the scaling of your Atlassian application is two-folded. We talk about vertical scaling and horizontal scaling. The vertical scaling is all about how many users you have. And this is something that is important from a performance perspective when you are looking into go to the data center's deployment solution. The horizontal scaling is a bit more tricky because it also affects performance, but it affects more the team working with Atlassian applications, being able to come up with the solutions that you want Jira to provide.
Inspiration. Bringing your tools to the moon is possible for any organization, no matter if you're small, medium, or large. Creating a good foundation is the core in this, and we hope that the focus on context in this talk inspired you to improve the user experience in your organization, making teams more productive.
And when it comes to team, one of the biggest success factors at Klarna is that when scaling the Atlassian application, is that Klarna always has acknowledged these applications to be critical. There has been a clear responsibility from the day I entered the doors at Klarna regarding these services. And the Atlassian support team has been entrusted to run the operation in the best way possible to meet the demands from the organization. We in the team all started as consultants, but last year we all became Klarnauts. with a clear mission to take us to the moon with Jira, Bitbucket, and Confluence.
I think we ran over time, so.
Sorry, we're a little over time here, but give a round of applause for Svante and Emil in the presentation.